Alright, hello people. I'm the dude, and this is me babbling about Smithsonian Channel. They made a video about the biggest snake ever, and I love nature shows. I watch them all the time religiously. I love the ones that are usually they're either about something interesting that I didn't know about, or they're about massive animals. There's nothing cooler than watching a show about like Megalodon, which is the biggest shark ever. The thing is so fucking huge. They have pictures of it, and then they show the little representation of a human to show you the size difference, and we're not even like a toothpick to them. That's how big they are. We're talking about a massive, huge animal. And one I'd never seen before was Titanoboa, which is the biggest snake ever found. This thing is fucking massive. We're talking like 50 foot long. Just to give you a comparison, the backs of flatbed trailers, the medium-sized ones, are about 40 feet. 50 feet's even bigger than that. That's like as big as the entire truck. That's how big this thing is. And then how wide it is, it's as wide as a person is tall. It's actually wider than a person is tall. So that's how big this thing is. It's huge. And it's the freakiest idea to me to have a predator just that big. Once you get to that kind of scale, there's nothing you could do. You couldn't outrun it. You obviously couldn't, be strong enough to fight it off. You're like a snack to these things. That's how big they are. And I don't know. I mean, like all these movies where they make giant animals. Like there was one where there's a giant crocodile. There's one where there's a giant snake. The Anaconda movies, stuff like that. All those movies, it's like they handle it the wrong way. They're always trying to do like jump scares and creep you out with the music, or more kind of a mood type scare, when in reality all you need is something that big on screen chasing down and eating people. That's really it. You don't need to be creepy about it. Something that large is scary in and of itself. Something that big, I mean, it's like a T-Rex, something that big, you're just screwed. There's nothing you can do. And just the thought of that, the thought of being 100% helpless is scary as hell. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I love National Geographic and Smithsonian and Discovery when they do prehistoric stuff that we haven't seen in real life, that don't exist anymore. Like, dinosaurs are an easy example. Anything that's just massive. Anything that is just huge, bigger than we can fathom, We look at pictures of, they've got the little diorama or whatever, the diagram where it's, this is what the human looks like, and this is the dinosaur. Even those pictures don't do it justice compared to seeing it, in real life, something alive sitting in front of you. You have to imagine the difference in size in your mind as compared to, actually seeing it. Like, most people don't know how big an elephant is until you're actually standing in front of it, until you see it. I mean, seeing it on TV just doesn't do it justice. But, unless you go to a zoo or something like that, then you can actually see it. But the size difference is just huge. And this snake was so big that basically it could eat pretty much anything that we know of today, except maybe like, blue whales or something like that. This thing was so fucking huge that it could eat sharks. It could probably eat a fucking rhino. That's how big these things are. Just imagine a snake that big, that thick, that long. Crazy scary. Just to imagine that. Luckily, apparently this thing, they theorize, lived in the water. It rarely got on land. So even if it did exist today, it wouldn't be that much threat to humans unless we went, into the water. Kind of like great white sharks. They're not technically, the snake wouldn't technically be locked into water. It could leave water, but apparently its weight would just suffocate it if it was on land for a certain amount of time. That's what they theorize. So at the very least, you wouldn't have to worry about it, slithering up into your cities and towns and stuff like that. But if you were in the rainforest where it lived, which was, at the equator, you really wouldn't want to be messing around in the water. Screw that. And apparently, they hinted at the end of the episode that they found a new giant croc, too. Apparently, this was after the dinosaurs, the time period right after the dinosaurs died, as far as, the millions of years ago. And they had no record of vertebrates at that time until they found this place on the equator. And apparently, back, millions of years ago, this was a rainforest. And they found the snake first. And like I said, the snake's like 50 feet long or some crazy shit like that. The longest ones today, and they're not anywhere near as thick as this snake, but the longest one I think was 30-something feet, mid-30s. And even that, you'd think, oh, well, it's only 15 feet longer. No, this thing is infinitely thicker. We're talking about a massive difference in size. But yeah, they found the snake first, and then they found pieces of the head of the snake. And then after that, they hinted at the end of the episode that they found a new giant crocodile. A new giant croc that dwarfed everything, basically. They show it next to the Titanoboa at the end, and, you know, they have to have a fight scene. They always do. Even if they have to throw in animals from other eras in time. Like, you know, even if they have to throw in a dinosaur versus Megalodon or whatever, they'll do it. But anyways, at the end they have this little CG fight scene between the Titanoboa and this new croc, which they didn't name it. I don't know what it's called. But the thing was as big as the Titanoboa. And it was ludicrous how big its head was. The head on this thing was like a small car. Imagine a crocodile with the head as big as, I don't know, like a Fiat or something. That is just scary as shit. All those giant croc movies that they've done in horror movies, apparently one actually existed. They had, in the fossil record, way back in the dinosaur days, which is even longer ago in, you know, the scale of time, there were ones that big, but apparently there were ones even closer to where we are now, you know, in the scale of the Earth time or whatever, which is just scary. And and they hint at the, or no, well, they hint about the crocodile, but then near the end they say that snakes' size is proportional to the heat. So apparently it was hotter back then. I think it was 60 million years ago or something like that, just after the dinosaurs were wiped out. It was hotter back then, and that's why this Titanoboa could exist, which is much, much thicker and wider and bigger than the snakes we have now. And apparently, if it keeps getting hotter, they're hinting that not over millions of years, but over a much shorter amount of time, like thousands of years, maybe a few million years, snakes could get that big again. It's all based on the heat. And then they dropped the whole global warming thing. I swear they have to mention global warming in every you know, nature show, every single one of them. And it used to be that they'd mention it and it was all our fault. We're fucking over the globe. We're killing the planet. You know, we're going to destroy all life and all this horseshit. Now they're slowly getting away from that. Now they think that it's just a natural process. It's supposed to get hotter and it's not just us. We're like some small part of how hot it's getting. And in this one, they mentioned that if it keeps going, if global warming keeps making things hotter, that eventually the anacondas that we have now might actually get as big as the Titanoboa again, which is just crazy. Obviously, I'll be long gone by then, but just the thought of that short amount of time in, you know, in Earth time, we could actually have Titanoboas again is just crazy. That is just disgusting. And then, I mean, this thing is so big it could swallow small cars, basically. They show the crocodiles that it would eat. I think they call it like the blunt-nosed crocodile, which we don't have anymore. It only existed back when Titanoboa existed, but this thing is fucking massive. It's huge. I mean, anacondas now can die from trying to swallow large crocodiles. This blunt-nosed one dwarfs the ones we have now, and it was the main food source of the Titanoboa. That's how much bigger this thing is, like wider, how much thicker it is. It's just hilariously huge. Yeah, I don't know. I love nature shows. I love any show about dinosaurs, I'm there. Any show about giant animals in general, like blue whales and white sharks, and especially the ones that don't exist anymore, like the Megalodon. The Megalodon is so freaky. Just the diagram of the Megalodon showing the size difference between it and a human, that in of itself, just a still picture, no details, just the outlines of the size, that is fucking scary. Because the minute I see that, the thoughts start running through my head, well, what if I was in the water? You know, and what if there was a Megalodon? And what if that thing's coming at me? I mean, it could basically just open its mouth, move forward, wouldn't even have to bite or anything, just move forward, and you'd be so small compared to it that you would just slide right into its mouth and be dead. It wouldn't even have to bite you at all. You would be a snack. You'd be a morsel to this thing. And then some of the other freaky animals, there was a pterodactyl that was it's not called a pterodactyl. It's got a different name, but you know what I'm talking about. A prehistoric bird, lizard-like bird that was in prehistoric time. It's fucking huge. It's like a small plane. Not even a small plane, like a medium-sized plane. That's how big this thing is. Imagine something flying through the air as big as like a medium-sized plane. Just, you know, cruising around, picking up not even small animals, like, probably like, I don't know, like, I wouldn't say bears and horses, but, you know, some in between that, like cats. It could probably pick up most of the cat species and just nom on them. Anything that's like moderately sized, this thing could probably eat with no problem. That's just creepy as hell. And then imagine a world, I mean, imagine living in a world where things like this exist. It wouldn't matter how smart we are. We'd have to wipe them all out or constantly be in fear of them. I mean, because if that thing decides to eat you, like if Titanoboa shows up and he's like, oh, there's a human, nom nom, there's nothing you're going to do. You know? Or if that giant pterodactyl shows up, it's flying through the air, you better duck in motherfucking cover. Because you're just a snack. You're gone. I can imagine like Megalodon, if it had the inkling, taking out small ships. That's just how big this thing is, the sheer scale of how big these animals are. It'd be like a blue whale roaming around that wants to eat people, you know, or eat, you know, if it was a carnivore. The Megalodon is, it's not as big as a blue whale, but it's pretty close. So imagine a blue whale with a taste for meat. Jesus. It would just be unstoppable. I think, if I remember right from the Megalodon videos, it didn't hunt near shore. It wasn't like, you know, most of the sharks today where it goes right up to the shoreline and feed. I think that was like a oceanic predator. It stays out in the ocean. So at the very least, you wouldn't have to worry about a Megalodon cruising the beaches. But yeah, really scary thought. And I'd never heard of this before. I mean, usually I'm watching nature shows so much that if they come out with anything even remotely about a giant predator or anything about dinosaurs, I see it right off the bat. But somehow I missed this, the Titanoboa thing. I don't think they made very many shows about it. I don't even think there is one in National Geographic, which is the channel I watch the most. This one was from Smithsonian. I'll put a link in the description to the actual video. You can watch it online for free. But yeah, just every time they show the CG version of the Titanoboa, and a lot of the times during the episode they show it during live action. They'll have people chatting about, you know, whatever, about the history and all that stuff, and then they'll CG in the snake around them, and you get a really good look at the size of this fucking thing. My God. That is just fear incarnate. I mean, not Freddy Krueger or Jason or any of this other, you know, random fantasy / made-up imaginary horseshit. No, this thing actually existed. This was an animal that existed that was so big that you would have had no chance at all to survive it. None. Zero. Nada. I mean, if you're sitting in front of this thing and it decides to eat you, you might as well just kiss your ass goodbye. That's truly scary. That is truly scary. Like, great whites today, great white sharks, I realize that they say they only eat a certain amount of people per year, and it's usually this really stupid low number. That's reported deaths. You gotta imagine that those deaths are only from people that are seen being eaten. Everyone else, anyone who goes in the ocean by themselves, or anyone who gets lost, all those people are unrecorded deaths. They have no idea how many are actually eaten per year. And just the idea of this thing. This is nowhere near as big as a Megalodon. This thing's about as big as, I think if I remember right, the great white's about a few feet longer than a really tall human. So you wouldn't think it'd be that scary, but this is another animal where if you're in its area and it wants to eat you, you have no chance. It doesn't matter what you do. You're just dead. And worst of all, it's not a quick death. The way the great white attacks, it will nom on you, grab you, you know, puncture you with its teeth, and then leave, and let you die slowly, and then come back and eat you. So it's not like some quick death where he just chomps you in half and you're dead. No. This is a really slow, painful death. And what's worse is other animals, other sharks and other predators in the sea will also show up. So basically it's not even the great white alone. It's a great white and anything else that happens to be in the area will start, you know, biting at you. Just really scary thought. Seriously. Nothing really compares to that. Being eaten alive. Slowly dying by being eaten alive. There's nothing that really compares to that. There's a lot of people that have really stupid fears. Like, or, I'm sorry, I can't say that. That's not fair. Let's say really unjustified, greatest fear. Like, oh, I have a fear of falling, or being at high altitude. That kind of thing. Or, fear of fire. Or, and by the way, if fire kills you, it's the smoke, not the fire. You're dead long before the fire gets to you. But, yeah, they have all these irrational, in my opinion, fears. Greatest fears. In reality, the worst thing that would ever happen to you in this life, that's plausible. We're not talking about like, oh, well, we get a bed of nails, and, we get salt, and, all these other just fantasized death, scenes and all this crap. No, I'm talking about actual things that could happen to a human being on Earth. Being eaten alive has to be the worst, by far. Nothing really can compare to that. I mean, even a fast death from being eaten alive, unless they just snap your neck, it's got to be the most gruesome thing that anyone could go through by far. I can't imagine anything that would come close. Honestly. And what's worse is, these snakes, the giant snakes, it's not like they're going to, chomp you to death. It's not like if, I don't know, if a lion got you, or a bear got you, or something like that. No. They slowly wrap around you and crush you. That has got to be one of the most painful ways to go. They wrap around you, slowly wrap around you. Doesn't matter what you're doing, if you're fighting them, any of that. They coil your entire body and then just crunch a little bit at a time. And then your blood vessels explode, your bones snap. Everything in your body just gets crunched slowly until you basically can't get any oxygen and you die. That is just gruesome. Just the thought of that is just disgusting, terrible. So that's why I love these shows, because a lot of people they think that horror movies should be about, crazy stuff like aliens or, stuff like that. And that's fun, but that's not scary. There's a difference to me. I mean, none of that stuff actually exists. Freddy Krueger is not going to invade your dreams. That's not going to happen. So it has entertainment value, but it's not actually genuinely scary. Things that are genuinely scary are movies that are about real serial killers. That's scary. Or, actual animals killing people. That's scary. Stuff like that is scary. Or being trapped in like a plane that's crashing. That's psychological fear, but it's still scary, because that could actually happen. Knowing that you're going down. Knowing imminent doom, basically. Knowing you're about to die. That can be scary, but all this other stuff is just entertaining. It's not legitimately scary. I'm not afraid when I watch it. But, yeah, anything about giant animals is just, it's just, I'm there. I will watch it. Because that is creepy. When I'm watching, a show about one of these giant animals, it's not as much entertainment to me. It's thinking about something that big wanting to eat me. That's the entertainment value I'm getting out of these shows. Something that large with that much power, with predatory instinct, basically. That is a scary thought. Ugh. And then, it used to be when I was a kid, the one I was fascinated with, like everyone else, was T-Rex. And, I mean, there's just so many things. They're so much creepier, scarier, legitimately scary than T-Rex these days. It used to be, that was the giant predator. That was the one that they had in movies and the ones you always heard about and toys and all this stuff. It was everywhere. Now, and ever since I saw Megalodon, that was by far the scariest I could think of. I mean, it's even worse than a T-Rex. At least the T-Rex are on land, our element, where we're meant to be. Megalodon, you're in the fucking ocean. What are you gonna do? You can't get away. You can't hide behind a tree or run in a cave or anything. There's no options. You're just dead. You're just dead. That's it. It's you, a giant shark, and some water. You're not gonna get away. But yeah, this thing right here, this Titanoboa or whatever. I mean, like I said at the beginning, at least if it did exist, it's like Anaconda. It stays to the water, the wetlands, that kind of thing. So you could just stay the fuck out of its element. Stay away from it. But, yeah. Ugh. And then, Jaws, by the way, the scariest movie ever made. Period. Anyone who argues with that is an idiot. It is the scariest movie ever made. It's not Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street or The Exorcist or any of this imaginary horse shit. No, it's you and a giant animal in the ocean. That's it. That's bottom line. No escape, no second chances, no way out. Just you and a giant fucking shark with massive teeth and intent to kill you. That's scary. And the way they handled it in Jaws, oh my god. They built up so much tension in that movie. And then when you finally got to see the shark and it was actually chasing after them, oh my god. The shark's taking out a fucking boat. Shark versus boat, and the shark is winning. I know that's not how sharks work. They're not going to attack boats. They don't know we're a food source for the most part because they're an animal. We're not their main target. Most animals, they have a target food group, or not food group, but a food item, a target prey, and that's what they feed on. And some of them have several different types, but they usually feed on one type at a time. Like they'll go to Seal Bay and attack seals. They go to Seal Bay looking for seals, not humans. So usually that's the way it works. But just the idea of a shark attacking a boat you're on, sinking the fucking boat, and you being stuck in the water with the shark, oh my god. That is scary. That is just a scary fucking thought. And if they wanted to, sharks are big enough. They have enough weight behind them to take out small boats. They could do it just easily. Very, very easily. I mean, I think they have they have this huge ramming force if they get up to full speed. It's crazy. One of the National Geographic shows mentioned that at one point. But yeah, I mean, just the idea of something that big with that many teeth and that much evil, merciless intent. It's just a killing machine. That's its only job. There is no reasoning or talking, or if you're in the water, there's no evading. There's no nothing. You have no options. So yeah, I mean, ugh. Anyways, enough rambling. I'll see you guys next time.